A very good evening, and thank you very much for joining us right here on RTN TV. This is your season premiere business show, Savvy Leaders, and I'm your host, Ronaldo. My guest today is Mr. John Kinuthia, Group Chairman, CEO, Chief Executive, Strategies and Solutions, CxO.
Yes.
Welcome to the show, Mr. Kinuthia.
Thank you very much.
First and foremost, please tell us about you as a person and now CxO.
Excellent. Again, my name is John Kinuthia. I'm a Group Chairman and CEO of Chief Executive Strategies and Solutions. I'm a consultant, an executive consultant. So I provide services predominantly to chief executive level, so CEOs, CFOs, and CIOs, and also to boards of directors. So I deal predominantly with the board level and C-level executives, and also, in the public sector, president level, governor level, cabinet level, any chief executive of any department is a potential client.
Before we get to our topic of discussion today, which is leadership versus management, branding, how did you come up with the name CxO?
Chief Executive Strategies and Solutions is one word that captures the essence of what I do. It captures who are my clients first, that is a chief executive, so that's the first part of the name. Yeah. Strategies and solutions is what I do for them, the services that I provide for them. I engage boards and chief executives in providing strategies and solutions to problems, business problems.
Asante sana.
Karibu.
And welcome once again. Now let's dive in straight to our topic of discussion today. What is the key difference between a leader and a manager?
Very good. A lot of people confuse the two, and it is acceptable that people confuse the two because in some instances a leader can be a manager, and a manager can be a leader, and that explains the different definitions that are there. The most reliable difference between a leader and a manager is that a manager, like the name suggests, manages what is already set. So they manage within the box. They manage within the system.
Certain perimeters.
Within the perimeters of the box.
Sure.
So a manager excels in the box that is already set for them, manage within the system, and manage the system. A leader is somebody who, in the first instance, creates the box. A leader is somebody who questions the box. If the box is not working or outlives its importance, a leader is somebody who gets rid of the box and creates another box, or just figures out that people don't necessarily need a box. So if I was to differentiate between a leader and a manager, the leader has to see. It's called vision. Yeah. A leader has to see ahead, project a future state, and then create that vision and the mission to take them there. And then a manager is given the strategic direction that the leader has given and the specific milestones and key performance indicators, or the key goals against which performance will be measured, and then they manage those to get them there. So the leader sees the vision ahead. The manager is a person who manages the sets of goals and parameters and the system and the box to get them there.
And can someone be a leader and at the same time a manager? And what are the traits that one looks at to make you qualify to be either of these two?
Very good question. So you can be a leader and a manager, right? But the general rule of thumb is that not all managers are leaders.
Yeah.
Most leaders and many leaders are managers, but most managers are not leaders. And in this world of today, we have a lot of people who are simply managers, and sometimes all the way to the top levels of corporations and governments and other entities that we believe to be leaders, but they're not really leaders, they are managers. If you ask them to set out a vision and have everything it takes to take you to that future state, many of them cannot take you there. They only manage within what is already set and given. So you don't have to be a manager, right? Or rather, you don't have to be a leader to be a manager, and most managers are not leaders. Most leaders are usually managers because it takes a certain level of experience and skill to get you there.
Perhaps just to mention some big names that we know.
Yes.
Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. Where can you categorize the two? Managers or leaders?
Those are certainly leaders.
Yeah.
One way the first thing I mentioned when I talk about the box is the leaders question the box. Yeah, or they create a new box.
They create a new box.
Or they remove the box and create another.
Not functioning?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in the case of Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, you notice something. These guys entered college. They were actually in a university, and both of them quit. And when they both quit, they actually set up their businesses in a garage. So these were people who at some point in the educational system questioned that box. And they kind of saw it as unimportant, or it's not functional for what they needed to do. And they actually exited the box, left that system. They went and started from scratch. They envisioned a future state and started working on it. So they certainly can be categorized as leaders.
And now, something different. What's the difference between employment and entrepreneurship?
Very important question. So a lot of young people, when they leave school, they are faced with that tough choice. Entrepreneurship is where you actually create a business, or you create a product, or you create a service and offer it to the market.
Making you the leader.
Making you, you don't have to be a leader really to create a product or market. One important difference, and I'm glad you asked that angle, you can come straight from school. You can get an MBA, you can learn management and project management, and immediately start managing. You cannot start leadership from scratch.
True.
Leadership is born of experience. Leadership is born of the wisdom that comes from having been there, done that.
Mentorship.
Yes, and not just mentorship, but the aspect of having done it. In fact, it's been proven that most great leaders must have either made mistakes or made blunders or ran businesses that went down. If you look at the biology of most great leaders, they actually learned from those mistakes, and that's what made them great. They didn't learn from their college experience. They didn't have it when they began. They made a lot of mistakes. From that experience, they gleaned wisdom from it, and that's what made them great leaders. So when you start as an entrepreneur, you don't necessarily have to start as a leader. It is the process of that entrepreneurship that creates leadership, wisdom, and vision and skills in you. And by the time you're doing maybe the first round of business, likely it will either not succeed, or it will fail, or you'll have a lot of hardship, and then you glean from that. Now, employment is where you join an organization or a business where somebody else has already seen that vision. They've already provided a product or service to the marketplace, and they have a system that's already working. They have a management system they've placed with it, and then you offer your time and you offer your labor, either in this form of skills or whatever else that you bring to the table, and they employ you for a wage. So employment is where you're given a wage as a wage laborer, and you assign your time as agreed, either contractually or permanently, to that person as an employee. So the employer is the owner of the business, and usually is either an entrepreneur or an established company, and the employee is a person who offers their wage labor to that company. So the difference is really, really huge. In the case of entrepreneurship, you're going after your own business, your own vision, if you've been there, done that. In the case of an employee, you're joining somebody else's. Sometimes it's important to be employed first and see how businesses are run, learn the ropes, get on the job skills, see how somebody else manages their business, and get that experience before, and that's a key, getting the experience, the vision, being there, done that, to be able to transfer it to your own business. So usually, sometimes it's advisable, but like we said in the case of Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, it is not a prerequisite. If you believe you have the skills, the leadership qualities it takes, and you have that vision and conviction, you can go for it. Yes.
Thank you very much. You just mentioned something to do with visions and missions.
Yes.
Perhaps if you just clarified, what's a vision, a mission, and a goal? Anyone who's going into entrepreneurship or anyone who's going into employment must have these. Yes,
and a lot of people confuse vision and mission. Now, vision, like the word suggests, is the same word we use when we are talking of eyesight. Vision in business is actually foresight. It's what makes you predict a future economic state or a future state of a business or future service you want to provide to the marketplace. And vision provides a strategic direction that you need to get there. So vision is seeing ahead, 1 year ahead, 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead, 20 years ahead. The better the vision, the longer the time frame you can project forward. Like I said, it takes wisdom, it takes experience, and a lot of other leadership qualities to see that. A mission is really the purpose of an individual or a business. It defines who you are, the purpose why you're there, the market that you're going to focus on, the product that you're going to provide to that market, and what uniquely differentiates what we call competitive advantage. What is your competitive advantage and uniquely differentiates you from your competition?
Would this, before we take a short break,
yes,
would this also be the determinants, I beg your pardon, when it comes to long-term and short-term goals?
Very important question. So once a leader has projected, and usually it's the founder of the company or whoever is a leader, once they have projected the future state and determined the strategic direction they want to go, the mission, which is really the meat of it, why you exist in the first place, what you'll provide to the market, and who your customers will be, what product you'll or service you'll offer them, and most importantly, what differentiates you from the market competitors. You then set goals. Goals are supposed to get you there. Like the name suggests, you hear of goals like in goalposts. That's a target. Yeah. So the goals are supposed to be short-term, medium-term, and long-term. Short-term are immediate goals that you can accomplish quickly. Sometimes they are very short-term goals that we call quick strike or low-hanging fruits. Things you can do at the flick of yes, and you have instant rewards or instant fulfillment of those goals. Medium-term are between those short-term goals and the longer-term vision, which is the end towards the maturity of that strategic vision or direction. And the long-term goals are those that you will achieve long-term. In most cases, the vision hardly ever changes. Yeah. The mission too is rarely modified unless market conditions change or your competition changes. If those key factors that I mentioned, if any of them changes, then you're called upon to revise your mission statement to up your game to match those changes in the marketplace. What usually changes a lot are the goals, because now this is the mission is more strategic. The vision is long term, it's strategic, but the goals are the tactical execution of the steps required to get to that goal and the measurement of the same. So sometimes you may find you need to change direction. Maybe your competitor just changed. Maybe the competitive landscape just changed. Or maybe the business environment or the market has changed. So you adapt to those. So goals can be modified. Long-term goals get you there in the long run. Short-term goals are things you achieve quickly to get to a comfortable position in the marketplace. If you're starting off, to get some market share. And then between those short and long-term goals are medium-term goals, things that bridge the gap and transition you from where you are today to where you're going to the future.
Thank you very much. We're taking a quick commercial break, but when we come back, the discussion goes on. Remember, this is Savvy Leaders right here on RTN TV.
I'm talking about a specific man by the name of Raila Amolo Odinga.
For unbiased, balanced.
The future of Somalia is embedded in democracy, diversity, equality of access to that democracy.
And credible news on politics. Don't miss to watch RTN TV every day at 8 p.m. on channel 105.
Welcome back. Remember, this is Savvy Leaders right here on RTN TV, and I'm your host, Chronos and Kairos. My guest is John Kinuthia, Chairman and CEO, Chief Executive Strategies and Solutions, and our topic of discussion is the difference between a leader and a manager. We've talked about missions, visions, and goals. Now there's something else. The Kairos and the Chronos. What's the difference between these two?
So when you talk of Kairos and Chronos, those are Greek words and they refer to time.
Yes.
So the broader topic is time management. When you've determined where you want to go, you've set your vision. When you've determined your purpose, your market, your customers, the products and services you want to offer to them, and the differentiator between you and your other competition, that's your mission.
Yes.
And you've set forth your goals, your short-term, your medium-term, and your long-term goals. The next step now is to manage your time to achieve those goals. And that's where Chronos and Kairos time come in. A lot of cultures in the world are modeled around Kairos time, and the Western culture, which is in terms of time management actually a minority, is modeled around Chronos time. Chronos time, like I said, it's a Greek word from which is derived the word chronological. When you say chronological order, the order of time. When you say a chronometer, that's a watch is a chronometer. Yeah. It is time built in quantities, and usually in chronological time, this is a key differentiator. Every moment of time is equal to the other. So if I want to set an appointment with you and we determine that we only need 30 minutes of time, it doesn't matter whether we meet today or tomorrow or next week or a month from now. Usually for chronological time, it's how much time I give you, which is 30 minutes. It doesn't matter where I place that 30 minutes. So I just go to my calendar or diary and slot in the 30 minutes. Yes. Kairos time is not only a school of thought, but a time management principle that says there is time that is more important than other time. Yeah. So when I ask you, how much time is it going to take? I'm referring to chronological time, which is Chronos time. When I ask you, did you have a good time? I'm not asking about how much time you invested into it. I'm asking about the quality of the time, and that is Chronos time. Yes. So in cultures that perceive time management from a Kairos perspective, they take special cognizance of the fact that some moments in time are more important than others. For example, a farmer who's planting knows very well that he can't just plant any time he wants. There are seasons he must follow. That is Kairos time. Yeah. Somebody who is managing a crisis, if a child is to be born, if somebody is hurt and is being rushed to the hospital, that time is more important. You can diarize it and say tomorrow we'll go to hospital and are you free 2 to 2:30?
It's a matter of urgency.
It's a matter of urgency. It must be taken care of. Yeah. Kairos time leads more to the importance of the time and the quality. And then the Chronos time only focuses on the chronological quantity of the time, and usually gives less importance to actually, which moment of time is more important than the other. So my advice, and usually in leadership, is that focus when it comes to, setting a vision, starting a business, even in your life, time management, try to focus more on Kairos time. Yeah. There are things that are more important that must come first. Those are priorities. And then there are things that can come later. And that's actually why we have short-term goals, medium-term goals, long-term goals. The short-term goals need to be addressed. Yes. They need to come first. They have priority. In project management, we call them dependencies. One thing must be done first because the second thing is dependent on it. Yes.
Yeah. Which leads me to my next question. When you talk of Kairos and Chronos,
yes, urgency
versus importance.
Very, very, very important. There's a wise man who once said, he called it the tyranny of the urgent. Yeah. In today's life, we are literally enslaved by urgency. Urgency seems to rule our day.
Dominates a lot of things.
Dominates our time, it dominates our time management. And a lot of people miss out on what's important to them and accomplishing their goals and succeeding in their businesses because they don't pay attention to the difference between what is urgent and what is important. As a matter of fact, there's a saying that goes, the enemy of the best is the good. The enemy of the best you can become is the good that you're becoming, or the good you're engaging your time to, yet it's not the absolute best you could be engaging that time to. So when it comes to importance versus urgency, what we say is very simple. What is urgent is what is knocking at your door, what is, urging you on, but it's not necessarily important. Yeah. We just talked about, a child who has been hurt. that is important. You should drop everything else and rush
take
them
care
to
of that,
hospital.
yes.
Yes. We've talked about a baby who's being born. The baby doesn't wait. You take care of it. It's important.
Yes.
Now, urgent things sometimes are important to somebody else, but not necessarily important to you. So somebody else, because it's important to them, prevails upon you to drop what you're doing that is important to you and pay attention to what is important to them. So a lot of urgent things that we do in life are actually things that can wait. Typical interruptions, phone calls, somebody else telling you, meet this deadline, do that, but it's really important to them, it's not important to you. When it comes to importance, it is determined by your vision and your mission and the goals that you have set for yourself, both in your corporate or business life and then also in your personal and individual life. If you have determined that your family is more important, then something else that takes your time away from family, it may look urgent, but it takes away from the importance. There's a quadrant that we call the quadrant of importance versus urgency, and we classify things into 4. Some things are both important and urgent. So that's like if somebody breaks their hand, it's very urgent and it's very important that they be rushed and taken care of. Something like a child who has been hurt or needs your urgent attention, that's urgent, that's important. There's something else that is important but not urgent.
But not urgent.
And sadly, this is a quadrant of quality which most people usually ignore. It is such a tragedy because the thing is not nudging you very urgently. It's not knocking on your door. Somebody is not calling you. You feel you can always push it aside.
Yeah.
You can always
Take
procrastinate it. How you know these things? Ask yourself, what is the one thing that I could do this week that is so important to me or to those that I care for, that if I do it well, it will totally change my life? And what is the one thing in business that I know I really should do that if I did this week really well, would make a huge difference in my business? Most likely it's in that second quadrant. It is important, it's not urgent. Sadly, because it's not urgent and because we are so enslaved by this urgency matrix and this urgency of life that keeps people knocking and things knocking at your door, we usually push it aside and procrastinate it. Most things that are important to you can usually wait. Recreation, like the word suggests, you're recreating your body, your soul, your spirit, your mind. Rest, rejuvenation. If you notice, all of this start with the word R-E, right? Sure, because you're recreating what was created before by your creator, but now it's been worn out in the nitty-gritty.
Yes.
Rejuvenation, yeah? Juvenation, that's what the same word we get juvenile from, something that's young and fresh, yeah? Rejuvenation is to inject that youth, inject that freshness back into your life. Rest, recreation, taking a vacation, taking a break is something most people just procrastinate because it is important, but it's not urgent.
Yes.
The worst category are the last two, something that's urgent but not important. This is the phone call, the knocking on the door, somebody tells you, hey, let's go somewhere, let's have a drink, are you free tomorrow, let's, and the worst of them all, the biggest enemy of your time management is things that are not important and not urgent. Mindless TV, that people sit down and watch programs, soap operas and all that. It's not important. It's also not urgent. But sadly, we spend a lot of, light reading that people do that is not adding value to your life. That is not urgent, not important. We really should stay away from that. So the quadrant of quality is the second one, where it's important but not urgent. If we did those things right, in fact, a lot of things that are both urgent and important used to be important but not urgent. We procrastinated them. Now they are both important and urgent. So if you can manage your time well, a lot of things can move from the first quadrant of importance and urgency and move to the second quadrant where they're just important but not urgent. You have time to do them, but you should do them fast.
Now, whenever anyone is looking at how important this is and how urgent this is, we tend to forget about quality or quantity.
Yes.
How does one make sure that the two are at par? Urgency and importance, and then quality and quantity.
Very important question. We've already talked about quality versus quantity when you talked about Kairos time and Chronos time, which means it's not the amount of time quantitatively that you invest into something, but the value you glean out of it. When you talk about importance versus urgency, when you talk about quality versus quantity, in today's world, sadly, we are dominated by quantity.
Yes.
The saddest part is very little quantity will damage, and too much quantity will also damage. Talk about food. If you eat very little and you're famished, you will not be in good health. You will not be strong. You won't have the vitality. If you eat too much, then it's also a problem. So it's always good, and you always find quality comes in that space between too little quantity and too much quantity. Yeah. That is where quality is found. And you determine quality by the value that you gain from it, but not just the value by itself, but in line with your vision, your mission, your purpose, and most importantly, what you believe you exist for. What are those things that are important to you? One of the saddest things is that most human beings don't realize. A lot of people think the most important thing in life is gold or precious metals or this other huge investment. We call them real estate of value. But the most important thing in your life is your time. It is the one thing. What makes gold very, very, very important and very pricey and high quality and very sought after, what makes gold be gold is that it is a rare commodity. But the most rare of all rare commodities is time, because the time that your creator has given you on this planet cannot be increased, cannot be reduced. It is finite. The day that that time is over, you're gone. So if most people realize that, we would cater more for quality, what you do with that time, as opposed to quantity, because in a lot of ways, we waste a lot of time in life.
Now that again brings me to my next question. When now we look at principles and values, and we also have scruples. Now you have the goals, you have the quantity, the quality, your mission and vision. What are the principles that now you should put down and make sure that you achieve all this?
Very good question. So let's first differentiate the three. There is the principles, and then there is the values, and then there is the scruples.
Yes.
Scruples are the rules of the game.
Yes.
Those are the rules that are set for the game, and usually they should be based on principles. But a lot of people find them based on value and not principle. The difference between principles and values is as different as day is from the night, as different as anything can be. Principles are those things that are already set and they are beyond you, and there's really nothing you can do about them. Our creator already set them, and those cannot be changed. I gave two examples. I gave an example of the seasons. The seasons are, winter, summer, spring, and autumn or fall. Those seasons are already set. Time is another factor that's already set. And I said the lifetime of a human being is already set. Now, principles are those things that are beyond you, that are already set by your creator, by which you should prioritize the importance or the important things in your life. Values are those things that you yourself personally value, the things that you take to be important. And a lot of people think just because I value something and it is important to me means that it should prevail over all else, and that I should actually make other people. And that's why I was talking about when urgency sometimes is based on what is important to somebody else. You may value it, but if it is in conflict with principle or with principles, which means if it's in conflict with how the world is created and how it operates, then you will be disappointed, and likely the expectations that you set for yourself will crush you, because you have set your values to be in conflict with what is already set for the world. And another example is, of course, the farm. We talked about sowing and reaping. That's already set. You can't just, when it's planting time, wait around and goof and do other things and schedule time later. And then last minute you come planting. It's a cramming sort of methodology that a lot of students do. Instead of learning and gaining knowledge and improving yourself,
until that last minute.
They wait until the last minute, they cram very quickly, and then they want to reproduce it in an exam. You cannot cram on the farm. That's the difference between a principle and a value. Something that is a value, because it's you who sets it and it's important to you, you can cram it and you can manipulate it as you want. Principles cannot be manipulated. They are greater than us. They are set by our creator. It's already set in place. It's important. that is what we should manage our lives by. Otherwise, we set ourselves for failure or for disappointment and unfulfilled expectations.
My director tells me that we're running out of time, but before we go,
yes,
I want us to put it out there clear. Should I run my business as a leader?
Yes.
Or as a manager,
yes,
stroke administrator, or can I do it? Can I be a 3-in-1 or 2-in-1?
Very important question. It's the same as asking when a mother gives birth to a baby, can I send it to school on day one? Or can I first, should I first nurture it and prepare it until it's ready to go out there? Most of the time, because vision is very sensitive, it starts with the founder. It starts with the original person. So in the beginning of the business, it's very important that you be involved, because other people may not have seen the vision you saw. They may not have the passion to deliver it and to take you there. They may not really get the strategic direction. Leadership comes in motivating them and influencing them to get there. So at the beginning of the business, it's very important that you be involved. Later on in the business, when people have caught your vision, when you've inspired them and you've already gotten those low-hanging fruits accomplished, and you're already on the way there, then you can afford to get a professional manager or somebody else that you trust to manage the business for you. But again, impart the vision to them, impart the mission to them, tell them the goals you've set,
so that they get to understand what you are.
Advise them in the achievement of those goals.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. King. Unfortunately, that's all we had time for. Until next week, remember, this is Savvy Leaders right here on RTN. My guest has been Mr. John Kinuthia, Chief Executive, Chairperson, and also CEO of Chief Executive Strategies and Solutions. And I've been your host, Ronaldo Diamba. Until next time, do enjoy the rest of your viewing. And on behalf of the team also that managed to put this show together, have a lovely one.